No more ugly solar. No more ugly solar. We hear it all the time. Homeowners don't want to put solar on their house because they think it's going to look ugly when it's on their roof. And we can't blame them because we do see a lot of ugly solar installations on roofs. But it doesn't have to be that way, and it shouldn't be that way. And today, we're going to dive into the first mistake we see homeowners make when they put solar on their house, and that's ending up with an ugly installation. Hi, I'm Josh Held, owner of Enlightened Solar, here today to dig deep into the first mistake we see homeowners make, which is ending up with an ugly solar installation. We're going to focus on 5 key areas, and then we're going to dive individually into each one of those areas and talk specifically about what we do at Enlightened Solar to make sure our customers don't end up with an ugly solar installation. The first of those 5 areas we're going to look at today is going to be where we decide to put the modules on the house. The second is going to be what pattern we put them in on the house once we decide on the location. The third is going to be what type of materials we're using for solar modules and what color they are. The fourth is going to be what type of materials we're using for mounting and what color that mounting material is and what type it is. And the fifth is going to be a conduit plan. What type of conduit are we using and where is that conduit going so that we don't have wires and pipes running all over our house unnecessarily. Let's jump into that first area of concern, which is how we decide as a solar designer, a solar integrator, exactly where we're going to put the modules on your house. To do that, let's look at an example of a recent installation we did so we can kind of show the thought process this particular homeowner took when he decided where he wanted the modules on his house. Okay, so let's take a look at this cool drone footage we took post-installation of this recent customer. And as you can notice, the first thing to point out is from the front of the house, or at least this attempted angle at the front of their house, you don't see a single solar panel yet. And as I roll this video and we raise up a little bit higher, you're going to notice there's actually 62 solar panels located on this house. This is a 19.5 kilowatt system. It's a gigantic solar system for this really nice, beautiful house. But the point is that from the front of the house, you can see there's not a single solar panel visible. Let's pause it here and take a look. You can see the 62 solar panels on this house. Not a single one utilized the front aspect. A lot of solar integrators are going to want to try and use whatever the best production area is, meaning where the most sunlight hits. But that's not always going to be the best location for the panels based on your desires as a homeowner and wanting to improve the aesthetics of the system. Once we've determined the perfect location for the modules on your rooftop, the next step is determining what pattern we're going to put those in. And it's pretty straightforward, and generally speaking, we're looking for symmetrical shapes like squares or rectangles as they match the shape of the roof planes that we're on. But it's not always that simple. A lot of times there's obstructions up on that roof, mainly in the form of roof vents for your house that get in the way. And most solar integrators don't take the time to relocate those vents. They simply work around them, and in our opinion, that just looks chopped up and messy on roofs. And so it's really important that when you can, we relocate those roof vents. Let's take a look at a couple different examples, starting with the one we just looked at, where we can see what I'm talking about moving those roof vents and how it makes the ultimate end installation look a little bit better. Okay, we're back on this plan set that shows the schematics of where the modules are on this house that we were looking at previously. And as you can see, if you look closely where my mouse cursor is, there's an obstruction underneath this module. We've got an obstruction here and here. Got another one over here. And then we have a couple, you'll notice right here and here, where we actually did move the modules to avoid those obstructions. And there are certain roof vents that just simply cannot be moved. They're either, there's not a legal code compliant way of rerouting them, or perhaps they're coming from a heated gas vent or another type of ventilation source that just simply can't be moved safely or code compliant. And so in those scenarios, there's nothing we can do. But if you look at the few where there are these obstructions underneath the modules, we call those out in this plan to be rerouted on a later page in the plan set. So that when we install, we'll come back to the completed installation. You'll notice here are those two vents that could not be moved. But you'll see large grouped together modules where we don't have a separation, so that aesthetically, if you're driving up this road and you look and you see this array of modules on this roof, there's not a space in between the modules, causing just a little bit more of a broken up look, which just doesn't look as aesthetically pleasing. And so the end result is just a better looking installation by taking time and spending a little bit more money to move a couple of roof vents, so that we don't have these type of breakups on every single array on the rooftop. And then we have an example like this that clearly shows the impact of not relocating those vents, having large missing gaps in the middle of the array that just doesn't integrate well into the home, as well as a number of other different installation methods and mistakes we can point out on this that we'll talk about later, including the mounting type. So keep an eye on that mounting type and how high off of the roof this particular array is, where they located it. It's overhanging one of the edges. Just a number of different mistakes on this particular installation. But the one to point out here is how clearly it just doesn't look as good when you don't move those roof vents and make one big monolithic array instead of a patchy looking array like this. The third point we're going to talk about is going to be the module type. And it wasn't that long ago in the solar industry where you would see a lot of bluish colored solar modules and even silver framed modules on rooftops, which looked very industrial and didn't look very modern or sleek and integrated into a home. But for the most part, installations today are going to have a blackish colored cell and a black frame around it, which looks great. However, there are still two very different types of solar modules in the market, one of which has a white backsheet and the other is going to have a black backsheet. Now, there's thousands of different brands of solar modules, and most of them are very high quality modules that are going to produce energy and have great warranties. But from an aesthetics perspective, speaking to just how they look, that white backsheet or that black backsheet is gonna make a pretty big difference. And the best way to see that is just look at a couple of examples of installed systems, some photos. So let's take a look. We'll jump through these quickly because you'll get the idea after seeing a few of these. This first one here is a white backsheet you can see with the cells in front. Next one, this is an all black cells with a black backsheet. Here's a white backsheet, another black backsheet, white backsheet, and then this last one has both. The one in the foreground here is an all black on black, and the one in the background you can see with the more red tile roof is a black on a white backsheet. So a few different examples for you to see pretty quickly what a black on black versus a black on white looks like. Both are great options. We prefer the black on black from an aesthetic look, and if you're looking for a little bit better performance and you don't mind the look of the black on white backsheet, that white backsheet does have a little bit better performance in that it captures a little more light and does a little bit better in heat management because it has that white backsheet. So that's point 3. What module type are you using to impact the aesthetics of the install on your roof? Fourth topic of discussion is going to be the mounting type. This is probably, in our opinion, the most critical component to the aesthetics of a solar installation. What is the actual mounting component we're using to attach the solar system to your roof? What is the rail color of that system? And is it low profile? And what is this going to look like when we install it on either a composition shingle roof, a concrete flat tile roof, or a concrete S-tile roof, which make up the majority of roof types that we see? There's of course other flat roofs where the modules aren't that visible from the street level or from the curb, but on a pitched roof home with a comp shingle roof or a concrete tile roof, there are a lot of different options for mounting materials that we can use, but very few that actually keep a nice low profile look and a sleek aesthetic look that we're going for with all of our installation methods and materials. Here is a look at an example of a mounting and racking system that we would use on a comp shingle roof. I don't want to get into the specifics of how this weatherizes and protects the home from any water intrusion. We'll do that in a separate video series because there's a lot that goes into that. What I want to focus on here are the aesthetic aspects of this type of system. First thing we'll look at is that it's all black. We've got a black mount, we've got black rail, and we've got the rail on the leading edge on the bottom side of this mount. Meaning that we're not actually seeing the flashing or that mount itself. We're just seeing that black rail once this is installed. And then it is a low profile system. And what I mean by a low profile system is simply the height from the roof to the top of that rail is as short of a distance as possible. We can see here once it's installed that height I'm talking about. We have a very flush, clean look. Our distance is only 3.5 inches or so from the roof to the bottom edge of that module. And then when we look at the edge of the array, our perimeter, we have a system that allows us to cut these rails flush so that they're even with the edge of the array, and we can actually clamp them down and structurally support them on the inside of this module so that we have a completely flush system where we can put on an end cap here, and once it's all completed and installed, here's the final product of this mounting and racking system, where we just have a well integrated system that's low profile in an attempt to avoid this type of situation. They've got good looking solar modules. That's about the only thing they've done right. The pattern is horrible. The mounting system isn't great. The rail is silver. You can see it sticking out on the edge on the left side there. The rail sticks out past the end of the modules. It's running, through the modules so you can see it exposed. They didn't relocate vents they could have relocated. Exactly the type of installation we're trying to avoid by planning out the mounting and rail system, having a good pattern and layout so that we don't end up with an eyesore of an installation like this on what is a beautiful building. The fifth topic we're going to cover is the conduit plan. We use conduit to protect the wires that run from the solar array up on the house or up on the roof down to the side of the house where we integrate the electricity into the electrical system of your home. This is exactly what we don't want it to look like. Unpainted, running across the middle of the roof where everyone can see it from the front of the house. It goes over the edge of the eave on the side of the house with a horrible looking 90-degree bend around the eave, and then straight down to the inverter where it's just completely obvious and an eyesore to everyone who looks at this solar system on this homeowner's house. What we want to do is what you can see here, a short distance from the array to where we drop through the eave. We paint the conduit and it looks great. We come through the eave. We match the painting color of the conduit to the house so it blends in. Change paint colors as necessary so it looks as if it's meant to be there. Another example of that is coming through the attic and flush to the house, matched around the surfboard and into the inverter, where again, it's intentional and we look as if it was planned out and thought through so that it blends into the home and we're not left with an eyesore of a conduit plan. Thanks for sticking with me, guys. That was a long video for part 1 of the 5-part series on the biggest mistakes we see homeowners make when going solar. Stay tuned for part 2, which is make sure you get it in the contract. If you are ready to learn what solar can do for you right now, there is no time like the present to take control of those energy expenses, start saving money each month with solar. Click on the link in our description. That's going to be where you can schedule a virtual appointment with one of our sales associates to learn exactly how much you can save each month by going solar. Thanks for watching. See you next time.